Welcome to the Stronger Together podcast, brought to you by Sandpoint Strength and Conditioning. I am your coach, Jen Marquardt, and I'm here with lovely wife, co-host, other coach, Jen Marquardt. Hello. We are coming at you live from my office. Today, we've done some stuff together, but I've been doing a series with the coaches to talk about their fitness journey, how they found the gym, what their experience has been like, just that kind of stuff. So I know yours, but I'm sure I'll learn some stuff today, which will be good for me and good for the listener. So let's start with your fitness journey. Like, tell me about where that started, if it started.
It's been a long one that for the majority up until I would say like 6 years ago, probably was pretty inconsistent. I grew up, playing sports as a kid, but I did a lot of individual sports, and I swam and played a little bit of soccer, did road crew for a while, kind of hopped around. I never was like a kid. Like, I watch our son Garrison, who is 10, and he freaking loves sports. He loves going to practice. Like, he is lit. I was never that kid. Like, sports was always kind of like a have to, like a box that we had to check. Like, my parents always wanted us to do something, but I never like super enjoyed it. And so then translate to like what that meant once I was on my own and not playing sports in college. I was pretty much always working out to like make my body look a certain way or like shrink my body and make it look smaller. And, like, we can just get into the depths here. Like, I struggled with an eating disorder in high school. And so for me, like, how small my body was like something that was the most important thing for me. Recovering from an eating disorder, but still just kind of use exercise as like a tool to get my body to look a certain way. And I was always skinny.
Yeah.
I was never strong. It never had anything to do with like endurance, or just being able to keep up. It was always how my body was. And that continued for a really long time.
Yeah. What did you do? What was your exercise routine? Like, what were you doing?
I mean, cardio, like, Stairmaster, treadmill, running. I did get into running in college and really enjoyed it. We went to UC Santa Barbara and we could run along the team. It was absolutely beautiful. So I did back then there was like a time where running felt really good, and there was that like little brief like mental release that I got from running, but I never like lifting weights felt really foreign to me. I never really did it. It felt intimidating. And I, like so many women back then, thought that lifting weights would make you bulky. So I just avoided it, That lasted for a really long time. And I go through seasons of like, okay, I'm going to get it together. I'm going to lose weight. And so I'm going to exercise. And by this time, you and I are together.
Yep.
Right? Was it consistent for more than a month?
I don't think I'm allowed to answer that.
But like, never. That just sucks, and it was a hard thing in our relationship too, because I met Kenny and he was so passionate about fitness. And I actually remember our first dates, you got in a punching bag,
Yep.
You taught me how to box. And I like doing stuff with you for sure, but I never liked to feel pressured into doing anything. And the second I would feel that pressure, I would just completely. And that lasted far after we had our kid, far after we had opened Jen. It's been a journey for me to fall in love with fitness, which I can confidently say now that I absolutely love my routine. I love working out, and it's completely changed my life. But it definitely took time to do.
Yeah, I do. I mean, there's a lot to probably go into there. I think that might be another podcast, like spousal support and whatever.
Yeah.
But what changed? Like, what was the big change for you?
For me, I think I honestly just to be hearing my own excuses. Like, I just remember everybody has these light bulb moments. I don't remember it that way. I just remember one day being identifying an excuse as an excuse, being like, oh, yeah, that's actually not true. I used to use busyness, tiredness, all the same things that most of us use.
Yeah.
And it's hard when you're out of shape, because every workout you do for the first month sucks. you're sore, you're tired. And so getting past over that hump, I never actually got over. I would just like start and then start and stop. And that would make it so hard to actually see results and see the benefits of it because I was just always freaking sore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think ultimately, yeah, I just got sick of hearing. I identify my excuses as excuses, and I wanted to do it differently. And like, I will say that I have the most supportive husband on the planet, and you wanted fitness for me really badly, and you did everything that you could do to help me get there. Ultimately, it had to be my decision. And I think I was doing it for me and nobody else, like that's when I was actually able to.
Yeah. And that has changed like markedly and consistently. Like it's not a season, it's a many, many year thing now for you where you're oftentimes encouraging me to go and, get out if we're traveling or doing something like you pull me as much as I pull you, I think. Maybe more, actually. I think you're more better about doing workouts while we're traveling or we're doing other things. So I think that's come around full circle in a really neat way. I can think of a lot of times when we've been traveling or whatever, and you said, hey, let's go do something. Oh, sweet. So that's awesome. What was the motivation? So the falling in love with it and getting comfortable with overcoming your own excuses was great, but like, what's the bigger motivation for you now?
I mean, so many things. I wanted to keep up with you and Garrison. Like, I was really tired. Like, excuses, not just in the gym, but like, if we did anything outside of the gym that was athletic, like, I remember, like, you invited me to cakes or do, and I was dying because I was not in shape. And then I had this little boy with so much energy, and I was tired all the time. Like, I can remember just feeling like all I wanted to do was sleep. I was working at a job at this point where I would like close my door and use my like lunch break to like take a nap under my desk because I was so tired. But it wasn't. It's hard in that spot because you're tired, so you don't want to do anything. But the reason that you're tired is because you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
And I was in that like, cycle there. So I wanted to keep up with you guys. That was really important to me. I started realizing like if I didn't get this handled and didn't tackle it, I was going to be saying, and I don't want to do. I wanted to be the mom and the wife that was like, hey, you want to go surfing? Yes. Hey, you want to try this? Yes. Like I wanted to say yes. I had to do the work to get there. The other thing was like, it didn't matter how skinny I got. I never felt good in my body because I didn't have any muscle in my brain, So it was like, I could weigh the least amount I had ever weighed, but it didn't mean anything because it didn't feel good in my frame and I didn't have the strength to do the things that I wanted to do. And so I wanted to feel, and I don't know if I knew that right at the beginning, but as I've gone on the journey, it's like, I love feeling strong. Like that is something that I take, like, yeah, I wear bigger size jeans now because I have larger legs and a bigger butt, but I'm like proud of those things because it represents that fact that like I can do anything I want to do outside of the gym. I don't feel held back from it.
Yeah, it's more the function and the appearance is a convenient side effect, which is cool. I mean, I think that's been the message we've been trying to promote at the gym for a long period of time. Now what you're promoting through Flourish, but it's about what you can do. And you often, I mean, I would say 10 out of 10 times, people end up looking better, feeling better, having more energy, but it's about the expression of that fitness that's the most important thing. And again, the aesthetics become a very nice side effect. I think the other thing too, what's been really cool to watch is that excitement to try things and the confidence to try things that I don't think we're ever a part of a relationship in the beginning. I mean, yeah, you box with me in the whatever, but like, surfing or skiing more aggressive runs or so wake surfing and regular surfing. There's a list can go on forever, but totally. Yep, for sure. The excitement about the function that you've created for yourself and the ability that you have and getting over that month or however long hump of frustration and disappointment and seeing the glimmer of progress. Like I've seen that change so much for you and it's been really amazing to watch. So that's just been super cool. So yeah.
Yeah, I think, it wasn't like one day I was just consistent. One of the biggest things I did was hired one of our own staff members to be a personal trainer,
Yeah.
And worked with me almost 2.5 years, I think. And that for me was a really good bridge between like developing self accountability. Like I wasn't quite there and I needed somebody to hold my hand and I needed to know that I had an appointment that I needed to show up. And at that point, when I did that, I thought, well, this is just who I am, right? I'm not a person who can hold myself accountable. I need that extra layer. And we own a gym. And thankfully, you were like, I think at that point, you were like, I don't really care what you do. Like, however, you're going to be able to stay consistent works. But, fast forward through that journey, I did become that person.
Yeah.
I needed to do it long enough to prove to myself it was something I actually do. I have no problem showing up for myself because I love it. But I think it's important when you're in that spot of like getting the support that you need in order to reach the goal.
Yeah, and I think that support ends at a certain rate for different people, where like at the gym, we start with a lot of accountability. Like everybody, when they start, we do personal training. And then most of the time people end up in group classes where there still is a lot of, like we do a lot of accountability for our groups, but it's less than it is with a personal trainer. And then some people get to a point where they're like, I got it. Like I can do this on my own. I don't need the group or the accountability there. And that's fine. But everybody, I think that ends at a different place for everybody. And I think there's a lot of, I don't know, judgment or just assumptions made about one as an individual, like whether or not that makes them a good person or they have intrinsic qualities or they're this or they're that. But at the end of the day, I think all of us have a certain level of which like they perform the best, and like just understanding and accepting the fact that some people just, they do best with a personal trainer for the rest of their lives, and that's totally fine.
Doesn't make you less of an athlete or anything else.
No, not at all. And I tell this to everybody. I think everybody that walks in the door to talk to me about starting at the gym said, I can't do this on my own. Like I think I can. I know how to do everything. I have all the equipment, and yet I'm not doing it. And it's like I say this to everyone, is like I can't either. Like I know more about fitness than 99% of people. I know exactly what to do. We have a gym, but I will work out for the class every day, because if I don't, I will half-ass it in the back room and screw around on my phone 45 minutes and call it a day. But I will not perform like I should be in the gym. And I'm not saying I try and kill myself in a group class. It's just I do tend to do better, more and more efficiently than I do on my own. And so that's where my level ends. Like most people, I think I used to have a fantasy that I would do my own thing. I could have my own program and I do my own thing, and that would be my path to success because I think it's glorified. But it's just not the case for me. I just do way better with others. So, and I think yours is started out with personal training. You never really did the group stuff, but you were able to migrate and understand enough on your own to be able to do it on your own. And now I think it really lights you up. And I think it's really neat for me. Like you brag about your lifts and you're proud of all the things you've accomplished. And the performance indicators are the things you brag about, which is amazing.
Yeah, I think it's been such a healthy shift, especially coming from a history of disordered eating, right? To have something to focus on that's outside of like a number on a scale or a size.
Yeah.
And I talked to other people who have had that same journey, and it's hard, it's really like, even when you heal from sort of disordered eating, the thoughts and some of the body dysmorphia stuff will like follow you for a very good. And strength training and being consistent with lifting has been one of the greatest healing things for me. The other thing is like I feel like I can eat now with a goal, of like I want to build muscle, I want to get stronger. Like you need in order to get goal.
Yeah.
Eating food always.
Yep. Conversely, I think for most of my initial gym journey, my experience was the same but opposite, where I was trying to put on as much muscle and size as I possibly could. Like so my aesthetics were the point. Like I wanted to get as big as I possibly could. Like that was some definition of masculinity, was like, okay, cool. Can I get to, I think I wanted to get to like 225 pounds or something crazy.
Sorry, knowing you, that's crazy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But the point was like, it was really discouraging because you were just kind of always chasing the thing, and the progress was so much harder to get excited about, because even now, like now understanding, like I could probably do that now better than I could then, because I just didn't really understand. I was like learning on my own on bodybuilding forums and stuff like that. So the point is though, like even now being able to successfully do that and saying, okay, I'm going to add a pound a week for a guy, like that's still 6 months. And it's like, that's a really slow thing. And so same thing for like, I see the same, but opposite for most women. Maybe that's not a fair generalization, but people are trying to lose weight. If losing weight is the goal, it's just super, it kind of washes away all the other stuff that is really empowering, encouraging, and like just it really settles better because the progress is demonstrable. You can feel it in your life, and it's just not subject to minute adjustments on the scale, which, you know, for me, I felt way works. And I think a lot of people end up kind of digging themselves in the hole if they focus too much on the composition thing, where they have low energy, their body's not happy because the thermostat's not set right to be a different size. I'm like, that's okay.
There's this point of diminishing returns, I think, with weight loss, and Precision Nutrition has a really great graphic. You remember that one? It's like the cost of getting weight.
Yeah.
And I like to use that with clients, and I remind myself of it all the time too, of like what is this worth to me, right? Because just because you have 6-pack abs, that doesn't mean you're any healthier than someone that's in a healthy body percentage. And sometimes you can sacrifice other things to get there in terms of your health. And so keeping that in mind, that, you know, that's not always an indicator that you're any healthier.
No, and like you said too, you're never satisfied. You just get more and more discomfort. Like you get more and more uncomfortable. And the recognition of that progress is so infinitesimal, if at all, if you get to the crazy low body fat percentage or what, like you get to, you know, maybe when you look yourself in the mirror once in a while, if ever, you're like, wow, I look good. But it's such a small fraction of the journey that just the payoff just isn't really, just the juice isn't worth the squeeze a lot of the time, and you feel terrible. So like, what's the point?
What's the point? I mean, I'm like, my goal now is to keep getting stronger. I mean, honestly, to feel like I look good in a swimsuit and confidently can do that, that doesn't mean too tight and all.
Yeah, that's the be all.
Yeah. You know, the other thing I talk with clients all the time is like, eating healthy, and people want to say that should be a really tiny portion of your year. And people think that they can just do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And it should be 16 weeks, maybe of the year total.
Yeah.
You know? And then you should be maintaining your weight. You should be focusing on building muscle. And every time we do that, every time we go through that cycle, the next time we need to, like, if you want to lose some weight, it's a lot easier when you lose.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of people have a really misconstrued idea of gaining or losing tissue, where it's really hard to gain muscle and lose fat at the same time, unless you're very new to the fitness. I mean, you certainly can, but I find that most of the time, if you're in, you know, it does kind of go back to the bodybuilding background that I had, was like bulking or cutting, but it does still pertain. Like it does help if you're going to gain muscle. Like you may gain a little bit of fat, and that's okay. Your body's going to gain tissue, and proportionally, it can't just gain muscle a lot of the time, or it can't just lose fat. And so if you're trying to do both, you often end up just kind of staying the same. So I think it's just kind of like designing things around optimal. Sorry, I should rephrase that. It's you can do it. It just takes a longer time, and to just design what your intake is for optimal, and just know that it's forever. Like that's ideal, and you will gain muscle and you will lose fat, but to hyper focus on both at the same time is just really not realistic.
I think it's better to do one thing well.
Yeah.
And then learn how to maintain it, and like then be smart. Like I have a lot of clients want to go through a phase in the spring.
Yeah.
Got it? Yeah, so do I.
Yeah.
That's great. So we do it then. you know, and then we strategically go back into maintenance for the summer where we know it's like they're going to have barbecues and want to have cocktails and, you know, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And then you're not, because the other thing that happens is like when you think you can just be constantly dieting, right, is your expectation, you're in this cycle of all or nothing, you know, where then you, sorry, if you look at worst.
Nope. Stay in.
You never actually, like, I tell clients, like, if you want to lose body fat, great, commit to it, do it for a defined period of time, and then get the hell out of it, because it's hard. You have to make sacrifices. And when you're just constantly in this, like, diet piece, you get really exhausted, you're less consistent, so you probably, like, your results get fewer and fewer the longer you stay in phase, because it's difficult. It takes concentration. You have to be dedicated to it.
Yeah, that's a good point too. And that what we talk about a lot is the seasonality of life, and there are natural seasons for certain behaviors and routines. And that if you really shift your mindset around those seasons and accept them for what they are, it can be really empowering for the overall journey. And just saying, you know, we don't really talk about this, but like if you just consider the holidays bulking season, and not to go hog wild and eat as much as you possibly can in order to gain as much as you possibly can, but just understand, like, you know what, it's not the time for strict adherence to something, and you might gain some body weight, but a lot of time, like I said before, you don't usually just gain one or the other. With an excess of calories, if you continue to work out, you will gain muscle, which then, if it makes sense for you in January to go into a more lean season and get on a more strict routine, you have more muscle, which will help you lean out because your metabolic rate will be higher. And so then if you are embracing the seasonality of this stuff and you say that that's what you're going to do, and then you take a little bit of a break, you know, in March through April, and then when, like you said, springtime becomes more exciting to lean out again, then so if you go through 8-week cycles of this thing, it helps with balancing life and knowing that you're just planning for certain things, and that may gain a little bit of gain a little bit of weight, but a lot of it might be muscle. And then when you want to lean out, great, you'll lose a lot of fat, and you may lose a little bit of muscle, but you'll gain it back. So yeah, I don't know. I just think that's a good perspective to have for people.
I think it's something that people don't understand about metabolism. You know, a lot of people will say my metabolism is slow or my metabolism this. Like, your metabolism is a ton of different factors and affected by a lot of different things, but one of the biggest things that it's affected by is your muscle mass.
Yep.
And so if you are yo-yoing and losing and gaining, which I did for, like, this is a big part of my journey, was losing and gaining the same 20 pounds over and over and over again, and dieting over and over again. Well, the reason why that was happening, I had no muscle on my face. So the second I started eating more than like 1,400 calories of gained weight, it was because I refused to do the work in the gym to protect my weight. So now I've got so much more muscle on my frame. When I go to diet, the deficit number that I have to get to in order to lose a little body fat is like 400 calories more than what it used to be. So it's a lot easier for me to stay consistent on that deficit because I don't feel as deprived as I used to. And two, we go into a holiday season like this, when you have more muscle on your frame and your metabolic rate is higher, you get to enjoy the foods that you love with a lot more freedom, and you don't just gain 10 pounds overnight because your metabolism is working for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Yeah, that's an interesting segue that I did want to explore with you. So I'm 200 pounds or so, and so I'm significantly larger than you. I have a lot more muscle mass. And one thing I find challenging for a lot of couples is that the portions for family, like everybody should be eating a different amount, but I don't think that most people get that right. I think that that's especially if you go out to a restaurant, like nobody's getting served according to size. And what I think you do what I think you do a really good job of, and I'm sure it's challenging, is, you eat less than I do. We eat most of our meal, well, not all of them, but we eat dinner together every darn night. How do you manage that? Because I'm sure, again, I know it's challenging, and I know it's challenging for a lot of people, and I don't deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, what I will say is that the big thing here is that we eat the same meal, right? Like that's what people get is like, if I want to see results, then I have to make a completely separate meal than my family. No, we all eat the same thing, but the way I plate our meals is different, right? And before I would just try to like make my plate a lot smaller, then I would feel really good. But what I've learned is that I make these kind of like bulk vegetables or bulk, just things that I can eat in a large quantity that are calorically insignificant, but visually and in my stomach, they feel really big. So like, I'll give like last night, for example, we made,
You made.
I made, I made this like, ground venison, kind of like stir sort of thing. And so my philosophy is I always cook our carbs kind of on the side. And so that I can plate meals in a way that makes sense for each person. Right. Our son, we're trying to get him to eat as many carbs as possible because they're a lot cheaper than that's why he eats so much. So I'll have the carb on the side. So I made like a big thing of big pot of rice. And then I had the meat in another bowl and then some like, cheese and other options. And so I just really think for me about, I use a measuring cup for my carbs and not like you see me do that every single time I plate. I go into the drawer and I grab my measuring cup because if I just take a spoon, I'm going to have 3 times the amount of rice that they actually needs. And so that really helps hold me accountable. And then I made a huge veggie side. So like I served them veggies. I had like 2 times the amount of vegetables that you guys. So my plate still feels really big, really satisfying. I feel satiated after my meal. I don't feel like I'm having to cook anything different than you guys. It's just how I'm plating my meal that's different. So I have it and then I let myself go. I have plenty of protein, try and get like 35, 40 grams of protein in that meal. And then the other difference is the fats, like how I put, right? The boys have like all the cheese and all that stuff. A lot of times I will have just like a tiny bit of cheese, but then I'll put, non-fat Greek yogurt on top of mine or some extra hot sauce, or maybe I'm taking avocado so I get some more fiber. So I just learned ways that like, I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. It takes me the same amount of time to eat my meal because I have the same quantity of food, composition of my plates.
Yeah, totally. How much has tracking helped that? Like you could go through seasons of tracking and not, but the awareness of what it should be, like how much does that help in the overall?
It definitely helped at the beginning, understanding what the size it should be. And also not being afraid of carbs. Because I was either like going hog wild on carbs or restricting them completely. And with the amount of lifting I'm doing, I can't have to eat carbohydrates, but I need to be like smart about them. But also fat is very sneaky. And I think women, especially, I work with women every single day and we talk about nutrition and I will hear over and over and over again, I don't eat that much and I'm still gaining weight. The foods they're eating, like this is with love, this is hard to hear, are very, like if you 5 cubes of cheese and a couple slices of salami adds up really quickly. And so people are eating really calorically dense foods, meaning a little bit of them is very full of calories. And so they're looking at the quantity of their meals that they're eating and they're saying, I'm not eating that much, right? But they actually are because what they're eating is it's full of.
Yeah.
Right. Adds up really quickly. So I think that tracking, I have clients track for a couple weeks when we get started. Some choose to do it forever. Some are like, I just need to get the data. For me, just understanding, like getting a grip on portion sizes, understanding, how many calories are in a tablespoon of olive oil, right? And like, should I be just drizzling that freely or maybe should I use it? Right? Those little tweaks make a huge difference. And you don't necessarily have to throw everything out and like only eat chicken and broccoli to see results. But those small choices, that loss is in the small choices. And maintenance is in the small choices too. Like making those little handfuls of things, the extra handful, and that's like all those things should happen really quickly.
Yeah.
To answer your question, I feel like the biggest thing was understanding my portion sizes for carbs and.
Yep. I didn't really talk about how that works for me either, but like I'm quite well aware of what I should be eating every day because I've tracked before. And for reference on that, my macros are probably around 180 to 200 grams of protein, probably about the same in carbohydrates, and I probably would guess 80 grams of fat. I don't know if that's probably not perfect, but I bet that's pretty darn close. And so, like, I'm aware of what those things are supposed to. I do not do that anymore. But for like, what are yours in comparison? Do you know?
My maintenance calories now that I'm lifting actually have some muscle on my frame is about 1850 total calories. I aim for about 150 grams of protein a day. On a lifting day, I will have closer to 140 grams of carbs. On a lifting day, I tend to make that under 100 usually, and then the fat kind of rolls out depending.
Yeah. So the point is, I have probably 800 to 1,000 calories more than you do, and I should, based on activity level and muscle mass. And again, what I was trying to get at is like how to manage the portion sizes. But I think that's 30% more than you're eating. And I do find that that's a difficult thing for people to juggle. So the takeaways are, know what you should be eating, like in comparison to, well, if you're a spouse and you're dealing with this, like know what you should be eating in comparison to your spouse so you can make better judgments, but also just having some strategies that you outlined for not feeling like you're eating 30% less than them, because that's kind of, I don't know, discouraging. Maybe not discouraging, it's just probably annoying.
Yeah, I can't recommend vegetables enough for this. But it is. And when I used to try and just make my plate smaller instead of making my plate smarter, I felt it so much, and I felt resentful. And I know, this goes deeper too, because I think women, if they go on a weight loss journey with their husband, guess who loses?
Yeah, all right.
Men do.
I know.
Boys. And it's because they have on their for the most part. I mean, it's a big piece. There's different factors.
No, 100%.
That is a big piece of puzzle. And so I get feeling frustrated, but I think that understanding, like, it's not even, our bodies do really different things, and they're the more I learn, the more different I know that the female body is and what it needs is. And so I think for women, empowering yourself and understanding, don't get resentful, get knowledgeable, understand what your body needs. And when you start feeling it the way it needs to be felt, and you start understanding it, and then you feel better, the resentment totally goes away, because it's worth doing the things because of how you feel.
Yeah. And there's an empowerment in that too with the strength training, with adding muscle. Like, you do have control over that. I don't think you're ever going to have 206 pounds of muscle on you, or what? I don't know. What do I have? 106 pounds of muscle. Probably. I don't think you're ever going to have that. But you can close that gap a little bit through the strength training and the muscle building that we've been talking about. So, yeah, anyways, I think that's super important and complex, and it doesn't have to be as complex as I think most people make it, and it doesn't have to have the resentment that people make it. So,
no, I mean, you just got to understand. Look.
Yeah. Well, so you've alluded to the fact that you're working with so many women now. Let's talk about that, because I know a lot of, if this is our gym, mostly the gym is who's listening to this. Like, who are you working with? What are you doing? How's that shake out?
Yeah, so I'm Amanda, our learning coach at the gym, and I own Source Nutrition Coaching and Fitness together. We mainly work with women online, although we have lots of local clients too, which is great. And it started as nutrition coaching, right? I just wanted to be a voice of reason and to see it crazy, right? I mean, that's like really the best way to put it, is I wanted people to learn how to lose weight the forever way. I was a child of diet culture, and I was tired of it, and I figured out a new way. And I remember for years saying, just to be a lifestyle, but I had no freaking idea what. Yeah. And so that's what Flourish was born out of, is really a sustainable way of teaching them how their metabolism works and what they need. Because women 35 plus, that is the point at which we start to see some of those signs of perimenopause start to pop up, and hormones start changing. And that is where what worked in 20s for like weight loss and fitness really starts to be clear. Like, I can't just out cardio and eat less and see results anymore. Like, so anyways, that's how our nutrition piece of the business was born. And then obviously the fitness piece, the more we learned about, the benefits of progressive overload style training for women in this age group, the more we realized we would also fitness component for it as well. So, we have fitness app as well, and our clients use, and we write strength programming 3 to 4 days a week and incorporate some HIIT style training and training as well, because that's really important for metabolism. It's not going to wreck your cell levels. A little bit is a really good thing. Too much is a really bad thing. So it's that middle down there. So anyways, now we run this, we do jumpstart programs, we do 8 and 6 week kind of programs to give you all the knowledge you need to really understand how your body works over 35, what nutrition should look like, what sleep should look like, how to manage stress. We dive really deep into mindset, because that is like, nobody needs more information. They need better skills between their 2 ears to know what is. So really passionate about that, and we're helping us women, which is just phenomenal. It lights me up every single day.
So awesome. What are characteristics of somebody who's successful? Because not everybody is. Like, regardless of how good the product is or the service, however good you are as a coach, like, what makes someone successful versus less successful?
They're okay with it. I mean, the people that go in thinking that everything has to be perfect to start, or they have to be perfect in order to be successful, are the people because the truth is it's not perfect, especially in the stage of life. Like, are you kidding me? Most of us have like highly intense jobs, careers, supporting families. We have aging parents. Like, this is a season of life where understanding that, like, if you can hit the mark even 80% of the time, like, that's a damn good thing, and being okay with failure also means that you have an attitude that you're going to be a lifelong learner, and you're not going to be good at this, right? I always, say, like, this is a new skill. Expect that it's going to be tough first, that you're not going to be good at it. Like, what would you say to your child? Like, they're learning how to read, they're learning how to spell. What would you say? It's going to take some time. You're going to mess up a bunch. And so that's what we really try to get over, is that perfectionist mindset and into this mindset of, what can you learn? Like, we have clients to, like, get curious about why it happens that way. Get curious about why you made this commitment and didn't fulfill it. Not judgmental. Like, I wonder why. I wonder why that. What would lead up to that? And then be kind and be kind about yourself. Like, hey, I'm learning. It's okay to not be good at this right away, but the next time I do this, here's how I'm going to approach it, right? And then get honest about what they need to change in order to be. And those things, like, if people can adopt that and stop getting in the self-sabotage spiral of, like, just because I ate a cookie, that means, like, the entire week is ruined, and get into, like, well, I ate a cookie today, I'm just going to move on, and I can have some vegetables and protein for dinner, and, like, it's going to be okay. Those are my most successful.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's the all or nothing is the worst. It's like, I think people lose sight of the fact that it is never over. It's just literally the rest of your life. And so you're going to stray and you're going to be great. And you're going to stray and you're going to be great. Hopefully the vacillations. So yeah, I mean, just the point being is just understanding this is the rest of your life type of a thing. And you're going to stray and you're going to come back but that's okay. So it's not all or nothing. And it's not the definition of you or your failures or that that's who you are. I think that's who all of us are. And that coming to understand that this is just the next 70 years of your life is very normal, and just coming to accept
that. 100%. And I think the thing that, like, we all as coaches have to keep in mind is that we are fighting against years and years of diet culture. And this generation of women coming up and trying to improve their health, we're fed so much nonsense as and watch moms. I mean, I talk about this all the time about, like, all the diets our moms back in the day. And so we're rewriting a story, and we're doing it a different way, but we're fighting against, a lot of generational stuff. It just takes time to
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're at about 45 minutes. It's 1 o'clock, so it's time for my lunch and nap. Well, thanks, dear.
This is so fun. Thank you. I love talking about this. Okay, I'm going to interview you next.
We'll see about that. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you.